The desert night was quiet. Only the crackle of firewood broke the silence. The human soldier sat alone near the flames, his uniform dusty, his face tired. Around him, the alien camp stretched with small curved huts made of metal and cloth. But most of the soldiers were asleep. He had chosen to stay awake, watching the strange sky with its two pale moons. He was not used to this world yet. The air smelled of dry sand and strange plants. The wind carried sounds of insects that did not exist on Earth. It felt lonely, even with people around. His thoughts drifted home, to the familiar nights of Earth. He wondered how much longer he would have to fight on this planet. Then, he heard a sound. It was soft, almost like the crunch of pebbles under bare feet. His hand moved toward his weapon, but he stopped when he saw a small figure stepping into the firelight. It was not a soldier, not an enemy. It was something else. She was tiny, no taller than his chest. Her skin was smooth and pale. Her long dark hair framed her face. Her ears were tall and sharp, twitching like those of a cat. A long tail swayed gently behind her. Her big glowing eyes looked directly at him, not with fear but with curiosity. She carried something in her small hands. The soldier blinked, surprised. The girl held a strange creature, a desert bird with bright feathers. It was clearly dead, freshly hunted. She walked closer, her bare feet leaving soft marks in the sand. The firelight shone on her as she stopped just a step away, without saying a word. She held the bird out toward him. He froze, not sure what to do. Why would an alien girl come to him? Why would she bring him food? He glanced around, but the camp was silent. The other soldiers did not notice her. She stood there, her arms stretched, waiting. Her expression was calm but serious. Slowly, he reached out and took the bird. It felt warm in his hands. He looked at her, but she only tilted her head, as if watching to see what he would do next. Her eyes were sharp, glowing faintly like two small stars. The fire between them danced, painting her skin in gold and red. The soldier thought of all the stories he had heard. They said the locals were dangerous. They said not to trust them. Yet here she was, bringing him food, as if offering peace. His stomach growled. He had not eaten much since morning. With careful hands, he placed the bird near the fire. He pulled out his small knife and began to clean it. The girl watched silently, her tail flicking once or twice. She never looked away, as if this moment mattered to her. When the meat was ready, he cooked it over the fire. The smell rose into the night, mixing with the dry desert wind. His mouth watered, but he kept glancing at her. She stood still, her glowing eyes reflecting the flames. Finally, he tasted the meat. It was tough, but it filled his empty stomach. The girl blinked, and for the first time, he saw a small smile on her lips. She seemed pleased, as if his eating was exactly what she wanted. He leaned back, confused, but strangely comforted. She stepped closer to the fire now, warming her hands. Near the flames, she did not speak, not a single word, but her presence changed the night. The loneliness he had felt began to fade, replaced by a quiet connection he could not explain. The soldier studied her carefully. She was young, maybe not older than a teenager, but her eyes held wisdom, scars of survival. He noticed small marks on her arms, maybe from claws or battles in the wild. She had lived a hard life, and yet she stood proud. Minutes passed in silence. Only the fire spoke. Then, without warning, she sat down across from him, her tail curled around her legs. Her eyes met his again, steady and unbroken. It was as if she was saying, "I am not your enemy." Without words, the soldier felt something stir inside him. He did not know why, but he wanted to protect her. He did not know where she came from, or why she had chosen him, but he knew this moment would not be the last. The desert was vast, the war was cruel, but in that quiet night, something small, yet powerful began. A bond formed in silence, in the sharing of food. The soldier looked at her, and for the first time since he landed on this alien world, he did not feel alone. The tiny alien cat girl had given him a gift. Not just food, but trust. Asterisk. The next morning, the soldier woke up to the sound of the desert wind. The fire had died, leaving only black ashes. He stretched his tired body and looked around, expecting to see the strange cat girl again, but the space across the fire was empty. For a moment he wondered if last night had only been a dream, yet, when he checked the sand, he saw the faint prints of her small bare feet. They circled the fire, and then vanished into the open desert. She had been real. She had chosen to share her hunt with him, and then she had left silently. The soldier rubbed his face, feeling something he could not name. That day he worked with his unit, repairing equipment and checking supplies. None of the other soldiers knew about her. He kept the memory to himself. If he told them, they would laugh, or worse, they might see her as a threat. Something deep inside told him that this bond was not meant for others to know. It was something fragile, something private. As the sun fell and night returned, he lit another fire. He sat with his back against a supply crate, staring at the flames. His ears were sharp, listening to the desert sounds. Part of him hoped she would return, but another part whispered that maybe it had been a one-time meeting. Then he heard it again, the soft crunch of sand under careful steps. His heart beat faster. Slowly he turned his head, and there she was. The tiny alien cat girl stepped into the firelight. Her glowing eyes reflected the flames. Her long hair moved with the wind. She carried nothing in her hands this time. She only looked at him. The soldier gave a small nod. He did not want to scare her away. She tilted her head, studying him like he was the strange one. Then, with small, quiet steps, she sat near the fire again. Her tail curled around her legs, and her hands reached toward the warmth. She still did not speak, but she did not need to. He pulled out a piece of dried ration from his pack and placed it near her. For a while, she did not touch it. Her eyes stayed on the fire. Then slowly, she reached out, picked it up, and sniffed it. Her nose wrinkled, and she gave him a sharp look, as if to say, "This is not real food." The soldier laughed softly, shaking his head. Still, she ate it, chewing carefully. Her face did not hide her dislike, but she finished it anyway. Afterward, she leaned back on her hands and looked at the moons above. The fire painted her face in gold, making her look both mysterious and gentle. Hours passed with no words, yet the silence was not empty. It was filled with something else, something he could not explain. Trust was building slowly, like a bridge made of invisible threads. He watched her, and she watched him. Neither tried to break the quiet. The soldier wondered about her life. Where were her people? Why did she come to him? Why did she trust him enough to sit at his fire? She looked young, but she carried the air of someone who had learned to survive. Maybe she was alone. Maybe she had lost everything. He wanted to ask, but he did not know how. She might not even understand his words. At one point, the wind grew colder. The girl shivered slightly, her arms wrapped around herself. The soldier took off his spare cloth from his pack and held it out toward her. She blinked, surprised. Her ears twitched. For a moment, she did not move. Then slowly, carefully, she reached out and took it. She wrapped it around her shoulders, her glowing eyes softening. That small gesture changed everything. Her tail flicked once, and she gave him the faintest smile. It was so quick that he almost missed it, but it was there, for the first time. She had shown something more than silence. The soldier leaned back, feeling the bond between them grow stronger. He realized she was no longer just a visitor. She was becoming part of his nights, part of his survival. The loneliness that had weighed on him since he came to this world was slowly fading. When the fire began to die down, she lay down near it, curling like a cat. Her tail rested over her legs, and her breathing slowed. The soldier stayed awake a little longer, watching her sleep. The soft glow of the fire made her look peaceful, almost fragile. He felt something deep in his chest, a strange warmth he had not known for months. She was alien, different, maybe even dangerous in the eyes of others, but to him, She was something else entirely. A companion, a secret friend, a silent bond that words could never break. That night, as the stars spread wide above the desert, the soldier knew one thing with certainty: she would come again, and with every night, their bond would only grow stronger. The desert was quiet again, but it was not the safe kind of quiet. The soldier felt it in his bones, a tension in the air, as if the sand itself was holding its breath. The fire burned low, casting long shadows. The tiny alien cat girl sat across from him, her glowing eyes fixed on the flames. Her tail twitched slowly, like she sensed something too. The soldier checked his weapon. He did not want to break the silence, but his hands moved on their own. His instincts warned him that something was near. The desert was home to many creatures, some harmless, some deadly. He had seen soldiers taken in the night by beasts larger than tanks. He hoped this was not one of those nights. The wind shifted, carrying a low growl. The sound was deep, rumbling, not far away. The girl's ears flicked sharply. Her head turned toward the darkness beyond the fire. She hissed softly, her eyes glowing brighter. The soldier felt his skin tighten. Something was out there, watching them. Slowly, he rose to his feet, his weapon ready. His eyes scanned the dunes. The firelight only reached so far. Beyond it was endless shadow. Then he saw it. Two burning eyes in the dark, low to the ground, moving closer. The beast stepped into view. Its body was massive, covered in thick-scaled hide. Its jaws dripped with saliva, teeth sharp as blades. The ground trembled as it growled again. The soldier raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the cat girl leaped to her feet. She moved so fast it shocked him. Her small body tensed like a spring, her tail whipped behind her. She crouched low, ready to strike. She was tiny compared to the monster, but her eyes held no fear. The beast lunged forward. Its roar shook the desert air. The soldier fired, the weapon flashing. The shot struck the creature's shoulder, making it howl in pain, but it kept coming, rage in its glowing eyes. The cat girl darted aside, moving quicker than his eyes could follow. She leaped onto the beast's back, claws extended. The soldier fired again, trying to help, but he feared hitting her. She clung to the monster, clawing at its neck. Her sharp nails dug deep. The beast twisted, snapping its jaws, trying to throw her off. The soldier charged forward, shouting. His knife flashed as he drove it into the beast's side. The night became chaos. The fire cracked. Shadows danced wildly. The beast roared, thrashing in pain. The soldier pulled his blade free and struck again. The cat girl tore at the creature's eye, making it scream. Together, human and alien fought like one, their movements desperate but united. Finally, the beast staggered, blood pouring from its wounds. With one last roar, it collapsed into the sand. The ground shook as its body hit the earth. Silence returned, broken only by their heavy breathing. The soldier wiped sweat from his forehead. His chest heaved. He looked at the girl. She stood on the dead beast's head, her claws dripping with dark blood. Her small frame looked fierce, glowing in the firelight. For a moment, he forgot how small she really was. She looked like a warrior, fearless and wild. Then she turned to him. Her glowing eyes softened. Her tail curled slowly behind her. She hopped down and walked toward him. Her steps were calm now, like the danger had passed. She stopped in front of him, tilted her head, and gave a small sound, almost like a purr. The soldier blinked. He realized she was not just surviving. She was protecting. She had chosen to fight beside him, not run away. That meant something deep. He knelt down, meeting her eyes. His hand reached out slowly, and this time, she did not pull away. Her head touched his hand gently, a quiet sign of trust. The fire burned low, casting soft light on their faces. The beast's body lay still in the sand. The soldier felt a strange warmth inside him. It was not just relief, it was something stronger. He was no longer fighting this world alone. He had her, and she had him. That night, When the fire finally died, she curled up beside him, closer than ever before. Her breathing was steady, calm. The soldier lay awake for a while, listening to the desert. He felt tired, but not afraid. For the first time, he believed he could survive here. Because now, they were a team. The danger and the night had tried to break them. Instead, it had bound them closer together. The desert sun rose slowly, painting the sky in soft orange. The soldier sat by the cold ashes of the fire, his eyes half closed from little sleep. Beside him, curled in the sand, the tiny alien cat girl still rested. Her tail was wrapped around her legs, her hair falling across her face. She looked so small now, nothing like the fierce warrior who had fought the beast the night before. He studied her quietly, wondering, who was she? Where did she come from? Why was she alone in this dangerous land? Her glowing eyes, her sharp ears, her tail, her scars each told a story, but none he could fully understand. When she woke, she stretched like a cat, arching her back. Her glowing eyes blinked at the sunlight. She yawned softly, showing sharp little teeth. Then she looked at him, calm and steady, as if nothing strange had happened. The soldier gave her a small nod. She tilted her head but said nothing. They spent the morning searching the desert for wood and water. He carried the heavy load, while she moved ahead lightly. Her steps silent, her sharp ears twitched at every sound. Her tail flicked as she climbed rocks with ease. She was made for this world. He felt clumsy beside her, heavy and slow, but she never laughed at him. She only watched, as if she was trying to learn more about him. As the day grew hot, they rested in the shade of a broken stone pillar, the ruins of something old, maybe alien, maybe human. He sat and drank water from his flask. She refused at first, but when he held it out again, she took it. Her small hands brushed his, her eyes lowered as if she was shy. For the first time, he saw a side of her that was not wild or brave, but almost gentle. The soldier noticed scars on her arms and legs, not from hunting but from something else. Some were thin lines, others were deep marks. His chest grew heavy. He realized she had been through battles long before she met him. He wanted to ask, but he knew she could not answer in words. Still, her eyes said enough. Later, as the sun fell, they returned to camp. The soldier cleaned his weapon while she sat near the fire, staring into the flames. Then she turned her head toward the dark mountains far away. Her ears dropped slightly, her tail stilled. There was sadness in her glowing eyes. He followed her gaze. The mountains looked sharp and endless, covered in shadows. Something about them seemed important to her. He wondered if her people had once lived there. He wondered if she had lost them. The scars, the loneliness, the way she brought him food, it all pointed to a story he could only guess. That night she surprised him. She picked up a small stick and began drawing shapes in the sand. At first he thought it was nothing, but then he noticed. She drew tall figures with sharp ears like hers, and smaller ones beside them. A group, maybe a family. Then, with a sharp line, she crossed them out. Her eyes glowed with sadness. She pressed her claw into the sand again and again, until the shapes vanished. The soldier's throat tightened. He understood, at least a little. She had lost them, whoever they were. She was alone because her people were gone. Quietly, he reached out and touched her shoulder. She stiffened at first, then slowly leaned into his hand. Her tail curled around her legs again. She did not cry. Not a sound left her lips, but the silence around her was heavy with grief. The soldier knew then that their bond was not just chance. It was need. She needed someone to survive with. Someone who would not leave her like the others had. And maybe he needed her too. As the fire burned low, she curled closer to him. This time, she did not stop at the edge of the firelight. She leaned against his side, her breathing soft and steady. Her glowing eyes closed as sleep took her. For the first time, she allowed herself to rest with trust. The soldier looked down at her, his heart heavy yet warm. He promised himself silently that he would not let harm come to her. He had lost people too, friends, brothers in battle. But here, in this strange desert, he had found someone worth protecting. The stars spread wide above them. The mountains loomed in the distance. Somewhere in the dark lay the truth of her past, and maybe the danger of her future. But tonight, she slept by his side, safe. And he knew one thing for certain: the unseen past had shaped her, but from this moment forward, he would be part of her future. The desert had grown colder than usual. The soldier pulled his jacket tighter around his shoulders as the fire burned low. The tiny alien cat girl sat closer to the flames, her glowing eyes reflecting the light. Her tail flicked lazily, curling around her small frame. She had been staying longer each night, no longer vanishing into the darkness when the fire died. The soldier noticed how natural her presence had become. At first, she had been a stranger, a mystery. Now she was part of his nights. The silence no longer felt heavy. It felt shared. He found himself waiting for her, listening for the soft sound of her bare feet on the sand. And when she arrived, he felt calm. She had begun to copy his habits. When he sharpened his knife, she watched closely. Her head tilted. When he tied a rope, she reached out to mimic the knot with her small claws. Sometimes she grew frustrated when it did not work, her ears flicking sharply, her tail snapping in. Annoyance, the soldier would chuckle, showing her slowly, patient as a teacher. She would learn quickly, her glowing eyes bright with focus. One night, as the stars spread wide above them, the soldier lay back on the sand, staring up at the sky. To his surprise, she lay down too, curling beside him. Her tail brushed against his arm as she pointed to the moons. She made a soft sound, almost like a purr, and tapped her claw at the stars. He realized she was trying to share something, perhaps stories her people once told about the night sky, though he could not understand her language. He listened. Her soft sounds rose and fell, sometimes gentle, sometimes sharp. She gestured with her hands, her claws drawing shapes in the air. He imagined she spoke of hunters, of beasts, of families that lived beneath the stars. For a moment, he felt as though he could almost understand, not with words, but with feeling. As days passed, she grew bolder. Sometimes, when he returned late from duty, she would already be waiting at the fire, her small frame wrapped in the cloth he had given her. Her eyes would brighten the moment she saw him, and her tail would flick in a quick motion that reminded him of joy. She never smiled wide, but her small gestures spoke louder than words. The soldier began to share more with her. Not just food, but pieces of himself. He showed her pictures from his pack, worn photographs of his home, his family. She studied them carefully, her glowing eyes soft. She touched the photo of a little boy, his younger brother. She looked at him afterward, tilting her head. He gave a small nod. She seemed to understand. In return, she gave him gifts, small things. At first, shiny stones, feathers from strange desert birds. Once she even brought him a flower, rare in the desert, glowing faintly in the dark. She placed it beside his bedroll, without a word. He kept it safe, though it withered quickly. To him, it was priceless. Their nights grew longer. Sometimes she curled by the fire, but more often, she rested close to him, at first near his side, then brushing against his shoulder. Eventually, she would curl fully at his chest, her tail wrapping around his waist, her breathing steady, her warmth chasing away the cold. The soldier was surprised by how natural it felt. He had not held anyone close for a long time, but he also worried. The camp was full of eyes, and not everyone would see her as he did. If the other soldiers found out, they would not call her a companion. They would call her a threat. He knew he had to keep her hidden. Their bond was fragile, secret, and dangerous. Yet it was also the only thing that gave him strength. One evening, when the fire burned high, she startled him by pressing her forehead gently against his chest, her glowing eyes closed, her small hands resting on him. It was a gesture of trust, one that spoke louder than any words. The soldier froze at first, then carefully placed his hand on her back. She purred softly, her body relaxing completely. That night he did not sleep much, not because of fear, but because he could not stop thinking. Their shared nights had changed him. He had landed on this world as a soldier, hard and weary. Now he felt something different, something deeper. He had become more than a fighter. He had become a protector, a friend, maybe even something more. As the fire dimmed and the desert winds grew colder, he looked down at her resting by his side. He knew the nights would not always be safe. The world was full of dangers, both from beasts and from his own kind. But he also knew he would face them, because when she lay beside him, he no longer felt alone. The shared nights were not just survival. They were the beginning of something greater, something unspoken, a bond stronger than war. The nights had become softer, warmer. The soldier no longer felt like a stranger in the desert, because the tiny alien cat girl was always by his side. She brought him comfort. She brought him silence that was not empty. But peace never lasts long in a world torn by war. One morning, while he was checking supplies with the other soldiers, he overheard whispers. The commanders were planning something big, an attack on the tribes living in the mountains. The same mountains the girl always looked toward with sadness. The soldier's chest tightened. He knew without doubt that she was connected to them. Back at camp, he tried to act normal, but his eyes kept drifting to her. That night she appeared again, her glowing eyes shining in the firelight. She sat beside him as always, her tail curling close. But when he looked at her, he did not only see a companion anymore. He saw someone who might soon be in danger. The soldier hesitated, but he pulled out his map. He pointed at the mountains. The girl's eyes followed. Her ears twitched. Her face darkened. She let out a low sound, almost a growl. She pointed at herself, then at the mountains. Her claws scratched the sand as if marking a line. Her meaning was clear. She belonged there. His heart grew heavy. The whispers of war echoed in his head. The commanders wanted to strike soon. They believed the tribes were hiding weapons. They believed the tribes were a threat. But now he wondered, were they really enemies? Or just people trying to survive like her? For the first time, silence between them felt sharp. He wanted to tell her everything, to warn her, but he could not. If she ran back to the mountains and the soldiers followed, they would kill her. If she stayed, she might be discovered. He was caught in a trap that night. She curled close to him as usual, resting against his chest. Her breathing was calm, trusting, but the soldier could not sleep. His mind was filled with questions. What was he willing to risk? His duty as a soldier, or the bond he had built with her? The next day, the tension in camp grew thicker. Soldiers sharpened blades, checked rifles, whispered about the upcoming mission. No dates were given, but the air itself felt heavy with expectation. The soldier tried to keep his face steady, but inside, fear was growing. That evening, when the girl appeared, she was different. Her steps were slower, her ears low, her eyes seemed restless. She must have sensed something too. Maybe she heard the whispers. Maybe she felt the storm of war approaching. She sat closer to him than usual, as if needing comfort. The soldier placed his hand gently on her back. She leaned against him, silent, but her glowing eyes shone with questions he could not answer. He hated himself for keeping the truth from her, but he feared losing her even more. Later that night, while she slept by his side, he looked up at the stars. His chest burned with conflict. He had sworn loyalty to his people, to his commanders, but now, when he thought of loyalty, he thought of her, the girl who hunted for him, fought beside him, and trusted him enough to sleep at his side. Whispers of war grew louder with every passing day, and with them grew his fear of choice. Soon, he would have to decide where his heart truly belonged. One evening, as the fire burned high, he saw something he had never seen before. She picked up his knife, carefully, almost reverently. She turned it in her hands, studying the blade. Then, she pressed the flat side against her forehead, closing her eyes. The soldier froze, watching. It was a gesture he did not understand, but it felt like a promise, or a plea, when she handed the knife back. Her glowing eyes met his. She did not speak, but her gaze told him everything. She knew war was coming, she knew danger was near, and she was asking him, without words, "Will you stand with me?" The soldier gripped the knife tightly, his throat tightened. He could not answer her yet, but deep inside, he already knew. When the time came, he would not point his blade at her, he would protect her, even if it meant turning against his own. The desert wind howled that night, carrying the voices of soldiers, carrying the whispers of war. But near the fire, two figures sat close, silent but unbroken, a human soldier and a tiny alien cat girl, waiting for the storm they both felt coming. The night before the battle arrived quietly, the soldier sat by the fire, his hands shaking as he cleaned his weapon. Around him, the camp buzzed with whispers and movements. Soldiers packed supplies, checked ammunition, and sharpened blades. The air was heavy. Every man knew tomorrow would bring blood. The tiny alien cat girl appeared as she always did, but this time her steps were slow. Her glowing eyes carried worry. Her ears twitched at every sound from the camp. She looked at him and then at the fire, curling her tail around her legs. She knew something was wrong. He wanted to speak, to tell her everything, but no words came. Instead, he reached out, brushing her shoulder gently. She leaned into his touch, her glowing eyes soft but filled with questions. He could not lie to her, and yet he could not tell her the truth either. When the fire dimmed, she curled against him, as always. Her small body warm, her breathing calm. The soldier stayed awake, staring at the flames. His heart heavy with the weight of tomorrow. He knew the mountains would burn, and with them, her people, her memories, maybe even her life, unless he chose differently. Morning came too fast. The commander gave the orders. At dawn, they would march toward the mountains. The soldier moved with his unit, his face cold, his chest burning inside. The girl did not follow him that morning, but he felt her glowing eyes watching from the shadows. The soldiers advanced, dust rising beneath their boots, rifles in hand, their faces set in grim lines. The mountains grew closer, sharp against the horizon. The soldier's steps grew heavy with each mile. The voices of his comrades blurred. His thoughts were only of her, the tiny cat girl who had trusted him, who had shared her nights with him. Then the first shots rang out. The battle began. Explosions shook the ground. Smoke filled the sky. Flames spread across the desert as soldiers clashed with the tribes. The soldier raised his rifle, but his hands shook. His duty screamed at him, but his heart pulled him another way. Through the smoke, he saw her. The tiny cat girl stood on the rocks, her glowing eyes wide with fear and fury. She was not alone. Figures with sharp ears like hers stood behind her, warriors of her kind. Their cries echoed across the battlefield. She looked at him, not with anger, but with a silent plea. The soldier froze, his weapon lowered. He could not aim at her. He could not let harm touch her. In that moment, his choice was clear. He turned against the battle, running toward her instead. Bullets flew past. Men shouted, but he did not stop. His heart carried him forward. When he reached her, she stepped down from the rocks, her small frame shaking, but her glowing eyes steady. She stood before him. As the fire and smoke raged behind, he placed his body in front of hers, shielding her from the soldier's eyes. Shouts rose. His comrades pointed weapons, but he raised his voice. "No," he shouted, his voice breaking through the chaos. "She is not the enemy." The soldiers hesitated, some confused, some angry. The commander barked orders, but the soldier did not move. He kept his body between them and her. His rifle dropped to the ground. His hands were steady now. His choice was final. The girl pressed her forehead against his back, a gesture of trust. Her small hands clutched. His uniform, her purr, was faint but steady, even as the world burned around them. He realized then that he had found something worth more than war, something worth betraying orders for. The gunfire faded slowly. Some soldiers lowered their weapons. Others still shouted, but the soldier stood firm. His heart beat like fire in his chest. He had chosen her, chosen trust, chosen humanity not in blood, but in kindness. That night, when the flames died and the desert grew quiet again, the soldier sat by a new fire. This time, he was not alone. The tiny alien cat girl curled at his side, her tail wrapped around him, her glowing eyes finally calm. She had survived. They had survived. The war would not end in one day. He knew more battles would come. He knew danger still waited in the shadows, but for now, as the stars spread wide above them, he allowed himself to breathe. She looked up at him once, her eyes shining, then rested her head against his chest. The firelight painted them in gold. A human and a tiny alien girl, bound together not by war, but by choice. He whispered softly into the desert wind. Though she might not understand, "You're safe now." And, for the first time in a long time, he believed his own words.